He's always ready to go there. And thank you very much, Rajeev, for taking
No,
out
thank you
time.
for having me.
Thank you, thank you. A big round of applause for him because he took out time for this. Thanks. Uh, before I begin, let me just tell you something about Rajeev that not many of you would be aware of. Some of you may not be aware of. That while semiconductor is the buzzword now, Rajeev had got associated with semiconductor industry in 1988, 88, if I'm not wrong.
86, yes.
86. So he was working for Intel in the US. He has done his master's in computer science from Illinois Institute of Technology. Then even Harvard, he had gone there for business course. And he was working in Intel and he left a cushy job there and came back to India in 1991. And not only that, in Intel, he was working on the pre-Pentium chip. And if I'm not wrong, you were hired by Vinod Dham.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a minister who knows the things and he's there at the right time, at the right place and handling the right issues. So I think that's
And you also disclosed how old I am, so.
No, he's a genius. So he started very early. Let's take it like that. But Rajiv, you come from a corporate background and we see you always in your traditional attire. This is called mundu, huh? Kerala style dhoti.
Yes.
Don't you miss your tie and your suit and your boots and things like that?
No, no, I mean, I certainly don't miss any clothes or anything, but I think there is a need for us to remind ourselves that as much as we are a modern contemporary society and a tech economy and digital economy, at the heart of almost all of us, we are Indians, and there is a great respect for who we are and what we come from and where we come from. So in some sense, this is something that I've adopted here because I like to go even travel abroad and meet people and have these long conversations about artificial intelligence or semiconductors.
Yeah.
But at the same time, make it very clear that we are extremely Indian and we are very proud to be Indian. And of course, this is, I'm Malayali, I'm from Kerala at the core, and this is but as Kerala as you can get.
So this is the spirit of Bharat. Huh? You always carry it with you. This is style statement.
Yeah, and I think we are living in a time, all of us, where the name Bharat, the respect for India as a nation and for not just as a country, but for all of what is happening in this country and what is being achieved by hundreds and thousands of young Indians all over the country has certainly got the attention of the world, and you saw that the G20, and you will continue to see it even after that.
Absolutely, that's great to see. So we'll have some questions with Rajeev over here, and after that we go to the audience. So please feel free to ask any questions once we are through with the session that we have. So Rajeev, let me start with the basic first. That India is a very digitally connected society. And most of us are there on social media or on internet in some way or the other. We are using apps, we are using social media platforms as well. And there is so much of interaction that we have with all these platforms. On the other hand, the government has now started to work out rules to manage that. You've spoken about transparency, that there should be openness, and there should be also trust and protection of digital users. But the fact is that we still have cases where the platforms are a breeding ground for hate, misinformation, cyberbullying, even harassment of women. Do you think that accountability needs to be there, more accountability needs to be there, and how do you ensure that the platforms, while being very useful to the citizens, are also safe and trusted and accountable to the citizens? Because we've come out with rules, but still we see so many cases coming up on a regular basis.
So Pankaj, that's a good question. But before that, I just want to say that one of the reasons I did change my schedule and made it a point to attend was the fact that you talked about right to excellence.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why that is so important, because we are at a stage where we are transitioning or we are deeply into the transition from being an economy that was competitive only on the basis of costs and market access to now being an economy and an ecosystem that is now focused on excellence, on quality, on innovation, and all of the cutting-edge attributes that make us not just competitive, but compete and lead and win.
Yeah.
So the right to excellence, this awareness about excellence, this awareness about being global champions is an extremely important conversation to have especially at this moment as we are at an inflection point of growth and expansion and innovation in the digital economy. So I just wanted to say
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So this is an extremely important point.
Yeah.
Look, let's be very commonsensical about how to respond to your question. India is today the largest connected democracy in the world.
Yeah.
We have 83 crore Indians using the internet. We will just around the corner by 2025 have, without a doubt in my mind, 120 crore Indians minimum connected to the internet, using the internet, consuming the internet. And all of them are not digitally literate, sophisticated users that you usually think about when you think about the internet. These are people far and remote, digitally not very literate, but certainly using the internet for their subsidies, for accessing the government schemes, connecting with the government, connecting with their own loved ones, people using that to deliver products and services that they are building out in a remote part of India, very far away from a city.
Yeah.
So the internet today represents almost a lifeline to 120 crore Indians by 25-26.
Yeah.
Now, in that context, it is certainly important that we understand that the internet ought to be open, that is free of any market distortions,
Yeah.
safe and trusted, so that any digital Nagrik who goes to the internet can feel that he or she is operating in a safe and trusted space, and that there is accountability between any consumer and the platform that is rendering a service or product to that consumer.
Yeah.
So these are basic principles we have adopted as guardrails or principles or building blocks, whatever you want to call it, in terms of how we view regulation and policy making.
Yeah.
And to your core of your question, should there be more accountability? The answer is yes. Accountability is a reciprocal concept between those who use and those who provide the service or product.
Yeah.
And it is something that had been lacking for many, many years.
Yeah.
And you know, more than anybody else, and I'm sure many of you know, that big tech and these technology platforms have gotten away
Yeah.
for several years and almost a decade without being accountable to the consumers that they serve and that they profit from. That asymmetry we are changing. We are in the process of that change happening. Is it perfect? Is it complete? Of course not. Will it ever be really balanced? We hope so. How will it be balanced? We have done the DPDP bill as one element of the legislation.
Yeah.
We will be very soon starting the consultation on the successor act to the IT Act or the Digital India Act, which we believe will certainly create that kind of accountability framework for all of the platforms, big, small, Indian, foreign, vis-a-vis the Indian digital Nagrik.
Yeah. So, digital DPDP is a digital personal data bill, or now it's an act now. But one part of the architecture is done. Once we get into the Digital India Act and the IT laws, what kind of an overhaul is happening? Will it be a very massive overhaul? Because, as you say, that the law that we have right now is kind of very antiquated considering where we have come in terms of our digital journey.
Yeah, so none of the changes, Pankaj, we don't want changes to be abrupt. We don't want chaos in the wake of a legislation. We don't want disruption that comes in the wake of any new legislation. We certainly want to transition from one regime of weak accountability to another regime of stronger, balanced accountability. We certainly want to transition from a regime when openness and free market access and choice was limited to one where there is more and it's more transparent. We certainly want to transition from a regime where, or a framework where misinformation, hate, toxicity, criminality is unfettered to one where there is consequences for doing things that are wrong on the internet. So this transition will be smooth. This is our commitment. This is our goal.
Yeah.
And it will certainly not be abrupt. It won't happen tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But the framework that we will put in place will certainly help us get to where we want to get in terms of the outcomes that we desire of openness, safety, and trust and accountability.
So by when can we expect the Digital India Act or bill,
I certainly wanted to start the consultation this month, but the government has its own process of internal approvals and all of that. That has been going on for about 2 to 3 weeks. I would have hoped that we started this in September. obviously I don't think we can, but if not September or the end of September, but certainly by early October.
And the bill can be introduced, say,
Uh, the Prime Minister is very clear that we will not operate on any artificial timeline to introduce a bill.
yeah.
We want every piece of legislation to go through extensive consultations to make sure that every stakeholder is behind it, understands it, contributes to it. If that process takes 2 months, it'll take 2 months. If it takes 6 months, it'll take 6 months. But for all of us
Yeah.
who are in a hurry to get from point A to point B, we would like to do it fast. But we will certainly not do it fast at any cost of excluding people from an opportunity to comment on it, to contribute to it, to shape it, to modify it, to alter it, as every consultation should.
That's great. Moving from the software side, IT, I mean to say application side of it to the hardware side of it, we've seen the government reap rich dividends when it comes to smartphones and all. But when you went in for the IT hardware PLI, you obviously went in with a larger budget, but suddenly there was this kind of a knee-jerk kind of a decision wherein people said that we are going back to a licensing Raj regime, that 90s are back, that government you'll have to go to the government for getting a laptops and servers and whatnot to get to the market. Do you agree with this view that maybe the decision was taken in haste? What is the current position with regard to that right
No,
now?
I don't think the decision was taken in haste. It was clearly understood when we designed it, and you were aware, Pankaj, that the design of that was done with industry participation, and I spent a lot of time with a number of sittings for us to design that ITPLI with everybody's input. So I don't think it was abrupt, but I think in the way it was communicated after it was notified, it came out in language that was certainly not consistent with our intent. It became licensing instead of what it really was, which was an import management system.
Yeah.
And let me just explain to everybody here, what we are trying to do is that as the Indian demand for IT hardware, servers, laptops, consumer equipment, the cloud and the data center type of infra, as the demand goes up, we want to alter and change the current model where we depend almost 80% of the supply chain is dependent on imports. And the imports are to a large extent from China, and that is certainly something that we want to change. And we want to change that supply chain to becoming more domestic oriented, that is more India focused, and any other geography that we consider as trusted. Trust and resilience of the underlying internet, the cloud, the data centers that power the cloud, and the laptops that our users use to access the cloud and the internet, we believe should be trusted, and we don't want to make the same mistake that Western countries today are making, and then having to remove whole pieces of equipment. So trust and resilience of the supply chain that supplies the Indian digital ecosystem is what is being redesigned. We are bringing in an import management system that effectively allows companies to import without any licenses, but encourages them to increasingly use the domestic manufacturing capabilities to make it more and more India-centric supply chain rather than import. So this is broadly what it is. We have since clarified that, and we will be very shortly announcing the import management system.
So licensing is out as such.
There is no such thing as licensing.
Fantastic.
It
I
ne-
think
by the way-
many people in the room would be very happy to
No,
hear that,
and-
because
and it was never there.
yeah.
But unfortunately, the way it came out was that we were trying to create a licensing regime, which it was never there. And under this Prime Minister, there will never be a licensing regime. So he never has believed in it. He would never believed. He doesn't believe in it now, and he certainly will not believe it going forward.
Just any broad contours of the import management system, like what do you intend to do in that?
Pankaj, let's wait for it to come out. Broadly, what it does is basically allows electronics companies, based on their domestic manufacturing and exports, have a certain amount of imports that they can do. No license, it's just a very automatic process. And built into that is a design incentive that basically says you have more and more incentive to manufacture locally and if you continue to import from geographies that are not necessarily trusted, the government may uh, uh, put some additional conditions or additional scrutiny on the equipment coming in. So essentially, in a nutshell, the message to the companies, and the companies have completely agreed to this, it is a joint message in a sense, that we want there to be a trusted supply chain that supplies the Indian ecosystem with servers and laptops and every other product that comes in that category. And that we would request that they do that as fast as possible rather than later. And we have given them ample runway for them to make the transition in a very smooth, non-disruptive manner.
Fantastic. So trusted and make in India is the buzzword with this government and what they are doing right now. When it comes to smartphones, I think we've had a big success. I think this year we'll be having record numbers, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a tremendous success. And as I love to say, when Tim Cook came into India and met the Honorable Prime Minister, and then I had occasion to meet him, he said, one of the reasons that a global brand with a high quality product and device like that was able to ramp up so fast in India, so rapidly, is that all the effort that had gone in that, in creating an enabling environment for manufacturing. And you know, Pankaj, that in 2014 there was almost zero electronics manufacturing. And about 82% of all mobile phones used to be imported. Today we manufacture 100% of all the, almost all the phones that are consumed here. And last year alone, we exported 1 lakh crores of Apple phones and Samsung phones. And this year that number is expected to go up even further by at least 20%. So it's about 120,000, 130,000. So we are certainly, from being absolutely invisible in the $1.6 trillion electronics, global electronics GVCs, we have slowly and steadily carved out a niche and are becoming increasingly a go-to partner, trusted partner for the world's consumers of electronics. So I think that is itself something that gives us so much confidence that we can broaden the electronics categories and go deep in it to create more and more value add as we go down the road, as these scales hit really large volumes.
No, kudos to the government for doing that actually. But, everybody speaks about this China and China plus one strategy. Do you think it is just a factor of China plus one, or do you think India in itself is such a big opportunity that none of the companies would want to miss the, action over here? So China or no China, we are there to stay, and we are there to become a very, very big force in terms of global manufacturing in the electronic ecosystem.
No, there are two trends that are playing out in our advantage, and in a sense, some of these advantages are because of the capabilities that we've built in over the last 8 years. The first one certainly is that post-COVID, the world is re-looking at these supply chains and are looking at this now not just from a point of view perspective of cost. Earlier, the only determinant was cost, and therefore China scored in the last 30 years. Today, it's cost plus trust, cost plus resilience. And therefore, India is clearly a preferred destination for that. The second trend is that India's own digitization is so rapid that our own demand for digital products is now today accelerating, and we are becoming one of the largest markets for these categories of products. So think of it as a perfect storm in a sense. The planets have aligned, or jo bhi astrological metaphor you want to use. But at the heart of all of this, what is making us, putting us in a position where we can realize these opportunities is the fact that for the last 5 years, we have steadily built up our capacity, the laws, the policies, to allow this type of an opportunity to be rapidly engaged with and pursued. So if the two trends had happened, but we had sat quietly for the last 7 years and done nothing about manufacturing, then this would have all gone to Vietnam.
Absolutely.
Or somebody else. But the fact that we are today digitally one of the fastest growing economies in the world, certainly the digital economy of Indian digital economy will be one of the largest in the world, except for North America and of course China. And so therefore that, along with the fact that the world is now looking for the GVCs to be redesigned, to be redrawn, where countries like India are trusted partners and are significant partners in those GVCs, is what really ends up with India having this huge opportunity for the next 2 years, and if 2 to 3 years, and if we do everything right and execute as we have been executing for the last few years, this is certainly the $1 trillion economy target,
Yeah.
for digital economy target that the Honorable Prime Minister has put in front of us can be met.
But as they say, dil mange more. We've got the iPhone over here. When do we see the MacBooks, and when do we see the watch and the hearables? Any kind of a direction that the company has given to the government that they're looking at, maybe MacBooks, if not now, maybe next year or next to next year?
No,
What do you
Pankaj,
see?
in the hearables segment, we are already big
Yes.
players.
Yeah.
I mean, with Boat and the other
Noise and
noise
Firebolt,
and we are actually really significant players already.
Yeah.
And you know, when the young gentleman who's founded Boat met me
Yeah.
some years ago,
Yeah.
when I had just become minister, I said, you know, we should design in India. You should be designing in India and not doing it in China or not doing it in Singapore. And he has quickly pivoted his company, and they're manufacturing more and more in India. They're
Yeah.
designing in India, and they're going gangbusters. So I think there is absolutely no doubt, and nobody in this room should have any doubt, or nobody beyond this room should have any doubt, that in electronics manufacturing, we have arrived. It is now a question of how much of the pie India will grow and grab. That is why I said it is all about execution. It is about state governments also being as focused on this opportunity as the central government is. Many state governments are very rapidly realizing that this is an area where investments, jobs are being created rapidly, and they must compete, they must create the enabling environment for it. And so if all of that goes as it has gone so far,
Yeah.
I see no reason, for example, bulk of Apple, bulk of Samsung, bulk of the other digital devices are manufactured in India. And I'm not saying 100% is our ambition, but certainly in the high double digits is certainly in our ambition and is in the scheme of things for us to very reasonably aspire to.
So we've got laptops, servers, smartphones. Any estimates of the
Hearable,
investments?
wearables.
Wearables. Any estimates of the investments that this sector is going to see over the next 3-4 years? Where do we reach as a turnover as well?
I can't speculate on the investment numbers, but I can certainly say that we have looked at the jobs that the $300 billion manufacturing target that we have given ourselves will achieve, and we think that the jobs in a net incremental way should be almost 50 lakh jobs to get to 300 billion.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
And
so-
in what period?
The target for the 300 billion is 2026.
Next 3 years.
Yeah, so so that is the kind of the impact that the growth in manufacturing, real jobs are being created. And Pankaj, I have gone to these factories. It is absolutely amazing and inspiring to see, and all these factories are 70, 78%, 75% women leadership driven, not leadership as much as women manned, women driven. And these are all high skilled. These are not the old style manufacturing where there are mid-level skills. These are
Very sophisticated.
Very sophisticated and high skilled, and from very rural, semi-urban backgrounds who are now proudly making products and devices that are being consumed by consumers all over the world. So these are fairly inspiring factories if you take the time and visit these factories.
Absolutely.
And I get a big kick out of it whenever I go there. So
You over the weekend you were there at the this semiconductor Micron factories groundbreaking. That must be a very different feeling because we've been trying to get a semiconductor factory to this country for such a long time. I don't know, decades.
No, and look, I'm not being over the top metaphorical, but the last 7-8 days for an Indian, and at least for me as a minister and a member of parliament, have been almost surreal. It's like we are witnessing history every day. We see on one day this beautiful parliament building, the first ever parliament building in independent India's history. Then 2 days after that, the new parliament, as its first legislation, legislates the women's reservation bill that is going to transform young girls' lives and young women's lives all throughout the country. Then the next day after that, you find as the iPhone 15 is being launched and is made available to consumers from Sydney to New York on the same day, the consumers in India get the same iPhone 15 but made in India. And if that, all that wasn't good
Then
enough, then
Navic
the
chip.
next day after that, I have the opportunity to go to Ahmedabad and do the groundbreaking of this $3 billion Micron plant. Certainly it gave me goosebumps those 4-5 days. And the Micron event was absolutely brilliant because, we are talking about one of the big names in semiconductors, actually building a plant, 500,000 square feet, cutting edge. They've got 33 new hires already that they've hired, all fired up. And the amount of interest from students in electronics and students from colleges around the country that I have received
I'm sure.
has been amazing.
And this is just the beginning.
This is just the beginning. And I said that. I said, this is actually the start of the start.
Yeah.
This is the first step of the beginning of the expansion of the semiconductor ecosystem. And absolutely wonderful and absolute privilege to be there, to be part of that moment.
Great, great. On this note, I think the minister has a meeting, so we'll take some questions from the audience. So please raise your hand, whoever wants to ask the question, and we would love to take them. Please identify yourself and please be very brief because he's got a meeting after this. Okay, please. That's Rohan Verma from Mappa India. Yeah, Rohan, hi.
Hi, sir. Good evening. I mean, thanks for all your leadership in digital, I think hardware to software. It's been the most exciting time for tech entrepreneurs. Just like Navic is now coming in the iPhone, and Navic is going to come in the, to support GPS and phones. Yes. Just wanted to ask you about software from Software PLI, because digital India is all about apps, and still apps, like large majority is the monopolized apps from the foreign countries. So is there something on the take for Indian apps to be able to see a future?
Monopolized apps, huh?
I think it's a very good question. The app economy is a very valuable part of the digital economy. And certainly we are very clear as government, as just people in the digital ecosystem, that is a piece of the cake that we don't want taken away from our startups. So we will, and you will see in the Digital India Act, certain principles being laid down that will not allow for these, I won't use play stores or names because then people will get very upset, but that environment to be less bundled and less closed and more open and more inclusive. It's very clear, and I want to say this without any ambiguity, our Prime Minister believes in it. We are certainly determined to implement that vision, that as many opportunities there are for our young startups in our country, especially but not limited to the app economy, we will ensure the legislations and the frameworks permit them to participate, compete, succeed, and win. We will not allow any of our startups and young minds to be closed out artificially because somebody somewhere in some corporate headquarters thinks it's a big business strategy. So that is certainly our mission. I don't think people are going to give up in a hurry, but we will certainly persuade them to open up to the apps. And we have talked about the mapping side, which was a closed system with just a constellation that was from one country or one geography and a couple of applications that sit on it. We have unbundled that. Navic is now by December 2025 going to be onboarded on all platforms and available on all platforms as a choice, not mandatorily only Navic. And we want to do the same for the applications as well.
Not only that, like we've got Aadhaar, we've got UPI, we've got Covin. There are so many examples of now Indian innovations taking over the world, and the world is actually learning from us. That's what we saw in G20. Just one last question, maybe Anku. Anku is from MediaTek. So what do you feel about the way the government is running the whole ecosystem? Do you guys feel encouraged? Do you guys feel that more investments are going to come from India, Anku? Can we have the mic, please?
Yeah, good afternoon. Actually, we are very excited about this Make in India semiconductor story that is playing out. And I saw that picture of Micron, which you mentioned just now. And MediaTek is a fabulous company, and so this is really very, very impactful for us as well. So from your point of view, right now it's about ATMP, but from the chip manufacturing, when will that happen? I know it's still a lot of news about that. Yeah.
Look, our approach is absolutely horizontal. So we are looking at the design and innovation side, which is the fabulous side. Then there is the whole research and talent piece that we have really done a lot of work in the last 15 months. Then there is ATMP, and then there'll be the Holy Grail, which is manufacturing and fab. And I'll just explain this to you just to share our perspective. Look at the value in the semiconductor ecosystem today, where the value lies versus where the value lay 20 years ago. Value 20 years ago lay in the ODMs, the Intels, and all of those companies which were the high market cap companies. Look at today where the numbers are. ARM is $65 billion market cap, fabulous. Qualcomm, $138 billion market cap, fabulous. Nvidia, $1 trillion market cap, fabulous. On the other hand, the fab companies, Intel, $160 billion, close to Qualcomm. Global Foundries, $30 billion. The coming decade, the value and performance and the throughput and output and innovation in semiconductors is going to come from research, innovation, as applied to both the device design and packaging. And of course, there will be process innovation, which the TSMCs and the Intels and the Samsungs of the world lead today. And I don't see that changing in the next decade. That lead in terms of fab innovation, manufacturing innovation, process innovation will continue to rest. And it may ping pong between those top three. One day, and the 2 nanometer, it may be Samsung, etc. So we are not making a bet that is unipolar. We are not betting only on fabs. Our talent, our capabilities believes that we can do research, cutting edge. We will do design innovation and encourage more and more fabless companies to grow, partner as well. We are now taking the Future Design DLI program to include now foreign companies as well, who can design chips in India with startups in India and have financing support from the government of India. So we see this very comprehensively. This is Prime Minister's vision, that we will not just pick one part of the value chain and say that we are betting, we are all in that. We will do this and we are, look, our strategy is decadal. It is not for any election cycle. It is not for any particular front page of any financial paper that we want a fab tomorrow, we want a fab day after tomorrow. That's not what we want to do. We are looking at this, and I have one phrase that I use to describe what we want to achieve in the next decade. We want to do in the next decade with $10 billion and maybe a little other loose change, and create the capabilities and capacities that China spent 20 years and $200 billion in doing and did not succeed. So we certainly want to do that at a fraction of the cost and be far more successful.
Great. I'm afraid we'll have to wrap it up out here because Minister has a meeting. And
we'll take one question.
Please, absolutely. Please identify yourself.
Sir, there is...
please identify yourself.
I'm Rajan Varshne from NTPC.
जल्दी करो जल्दी.
हाँ. सर, ये जो power है 24/7 RE, ये अगर हम CSP से या waste to biogas से करते हैं तो ₹2.5 से ₹3 में हम 24/7 फर्म RE दे सकते हैं. मैंने आपको 1 साल पहले भी इंपीरियल होटल में यही क्वेश्चन बताया था, तो आपने डाटा तो मेरे से लिया था लेकिन मेरे को कॉल नहीं किया.
ये मेरे पे स्केल और जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन थोड़ा बाहर.
You have to go by his care. He is doing a fantastic job. His hands are full.
ये इम्पोर्टेंट है कि जितनी हम इंडस्ट्री लगा रहे हैं उसको 24/7 RE चाहिए, माइक्रोचिप्स को भी और डाटा सर्वर को भी.
No, I think we seem to be in very safe and trusted hands. The minister is saying that we will get $300 billion of manufacturing target, 50 lakh jobs. The internet is going to get more and more safer. So on this good note, thank you very much, Rajeev, for being here. And we really appreciate your presence, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We are extremely grateful to the Honorable Minister of State for Electronics.